10 दिन चर्चा में भय ठौर हुआ जब बंद, तब कही महात्मा मेरो गयो मेरो मार्ग को प्रबंध, मेरो मार्ग को प्रबंध। 10 दिन चर्चा में भय। बोलिए श्री प्राणनाथ प्यारे की जय। Dear Chandraji, we talked about various topics yesterday. We covered various topics. Mahamati Prananathji's message to the followers of Vaishnava traditions and his reminder to them what Vallabhacharya actually talked about, what he brought for humanity, and their distractions from the teachings of Vallabhacharya. And Mahamati Prananathji's reminder that Vaishnava is actually the one who understands the pain of others. Vaishnava is the one who not only cares about the purity of the body, but should also be worried about the purity of mind, purity of thoughts, and purity of actions. So Mahamati Prananathji reminds the Vallabha people, the followers of Vallabha traditions. And we also covered many other topics yesterday. Mahamati Prananathji arrives to the city of Mirta. As we already talked about, it is the city of the great Krishna devotee named Mirabai. She spread the glory of Golokiya Sri Krishna in the city of Mirta. And Mahamati Prananathji thought that this would be a best place that he could talk about the glory of Aksharati Sri Krishna, whom Golokiya Sri Krishna himself submits to in prayer. But Lavananda Yeti, a monk with some miraculous powers, have kept everyone in the state of fear because he can perform miracles, he can move the boulders, he can do a lot of things with his miraculous powers. So he has set a rule, a condition that any saint, any religious scholar that wants to come to the city of Mirta would have to beat him in the spiritual or religious discourse or debate. So Mahamati Prananathji wants to come to Mirta and he has but no choice and be in the debate with Lavanandayati. As Mahamati Prananathji states here with Lalasi that it only takes him 10 days to beat Lavanandayati in the debate. He handily beats him, he handily defeats him in the debate. As we already talked about, Tartam is the awakened consciousness. Tartam has answers to all the questions that humanity has. It has the description from Patal, the ethereal world, all the way to Paramdhan, and everything in between. So any question that he has, Lavanandayati, Mahamati Prananathji has answers to. However, the questions Mahamati Prananathji has for him, he cannot find answers to them. He tries to quote the scriptures, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and all those scriptures. Yet, there are some deepest secrets in those scriptures without Tartam, the revelation of which is almost impossible. So after 10 days, he gets defeated, but he does not want to admit his defeat. He doesn't want to acknowledge his defeat publicly. So he wants to find a way to physically hurt Prananathji and his team. It is sometimes really hard for people to accept their defeat because that undermines, that dents their ego. As you see what's happening in the US politics today. It's really hard for people to accept their defeats. As such, the societal harmony is disturbed. He wants to hurt Mahamati Prananaji and his team with all the miraculous power he has. He wants to throw everything at Mahamati Prananaji. Yet, Mahamati Prananaji has the grace of Sri Raji Maharaj. And it is stated, Jako rakhe siya mar sake na koi, bal na vakra kar sake, so sab jaga vairi hue. So, with the grace of Sri Raji, Mahamati Prananaji is unscathed. Nothing happens to him. And Lavanandayati finally gives up on his efforts, futile efforts, to hurt Prananaji. Mahamati Prananaji is welcomed by the people of Mirta because there was no one prior to Prananaji in the time of Lavanandayati that could meet him and they could welcome him there. Mahamati Prananaji is there and more people, a lot of people come to his darshana to meet him because the glory of him defeating Lavanandayati had spread across the town because nobody had been able to do that previously. Among the people that came to the discourse were the families that belonged to Marwadi community. Rajaram Bhai, Zajan Bhai were among those who came to the discourse of Mahamati Prananaji. As they started listening to the discourse, they got so fascinated by it and their souls were awakened. Jajan aya sathame liye kutumba parivar, laya imana arasha para pahunchi parvartigar. So his soul was awakened along with his family and he found the eternal abode of Paramdham with the grace of Sri Prananaji and his teachings. Similarly, Rajaram Bhai was a big businessman. He was a wealthy man. He came to the discourse of Prananaji. As Mahamati comes, Mahamati Prananaji distinguishes the Leelas of Sri Krishna, as we talked about previously. The distinction of Mahamati Prananaji, the distinction of the teachings of Mahamati Prananaji and other Krishna Bhakti traditions, be it International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the Radhe Radhe movement, or 4 different types of Vaishnava traditions and its sects. Mahamati Prananaji discriminates 3 different Krishnas and their Leelas. If you look at the Vaishnava traditions, Vaishnava tradition considers Lord Vishnu to be the Lord Supreme. The Radhe Radhe movement, although it started off as a Vaishnava tradition, talks about Golokiya Sri Krishna as the Lord Supreme. Here, Mahamati Prananaji distinguishes himself from it and goes beyond to mention that it is the Lord Sri Krishna that resides in Paramdham, the Supreme Abode, who is the Lord Supreme. So he reveals the secrets of Sri Krishna and his Leelas. In the city of Mirabai, he is explaining the essence of Krishna Bhakti. In the city of Mirta, where Mirabai spread, and the glory of Mirabai has spread across India, in that city, Mahamati Prananaji actually tells people the real Leelas of Sri Krishna and his distinctions. Krishna Krishna sab koi kahe par bheda na jane koi, naam ek vida hai sahi par leela tine vida hoy. Ek veda vaikuntha ka duja hai golok, tija dhama khanda ka kahe purana vivek. So Mahamati Prananaji talks about 3 different Leelas of Sri Krishna. One of the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. The next one of Golokiya Sri Krishna, and the third one of Aksharatit Sri Krishna. Mahamati Prananath, with his transcendent understanding and revelations of different references to Krishna Lila in Bhagavatam and other scriptures, is awakening people. More and more people join his discourse. Rajaram Bhai and his family was also initiated into Dharma. Rajaram Bhai, who had a contract of delivering mails to the city and beyond, was a wealthy businessman. He had a daughter named Lalita. She was handicapped. She was a little bit dark in her complexion. She could not walk properly, and her body was a little bit twisted. She was about the age of getting married, but due to her physical condition, due to her complexion, due to her looks, her father, Rajaram Bhai, was worried if she could find a man in her life to get married. Mahamati Prananath realized the anxiety of Rajaram Bhai. Mahamati Prananath told him that, Rajaram, you will be the one taking up the responsibility of providing for this Sundarsaji wherever they go. The food, the grains, whatever they need, you would be the one providing them all of that. Rajaram Bhai accepted what Mahamati Prananath said and told him that he won't have to worry about it. He would do all it takes to provide for Sundarsats. But he said, I'm worried about one thing though, Prananath. My daughter is at the age of getting married, but I'm really worried that she may not find anyone to do so. He brought his daughter to Prananath, and as soon as he saw her, he saw the spirit of Lalita Bai of Paramdham in the daughter of Rajaram. He gave her the Thartam mantra, awakened her right away, and told Rajaram Bhai that he built a temple. And that is where she was assigned serving Sri Raji Maharaj. If you go to the city of Mirta today, there is a temple, Pranami temple, that was built by Rajaram Bhai. Lalita felt the gratitude of Prananath's awakening. Although she was a little bit unhappy with the state of her body, the state of her physical condition, she was grateful that she was awakened by Prananath and accepted by Lord Sri Krishna. She had many friends who were getting married, they were having kids, and they were probably enjoying their marital life. Lalita Sakhi, who was not beautiful, who was handicapped, her physical condition was not as good as those of others. She realized that it's probably because of that and the grace of Prananath, she found that which everyone was missing, the grace of Sri Raji, the grace of Sri Krishna. Mahamati Prananath told Rajaram Bhai that there is no one in this world who is worthy of her because she is the divine consort of Sri Krishna. So she is already married to Sri Krishna, so there is no one worthy of her. And Rajaram Bhai was convinced that that is probably what she was destined for. And the feeling that Lalita had for Prananaji's awakening and what she was given. Mahamati Prananaji got a revelation of her feeling in the book of Kirtan, chapter 119. She wants to submit to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna again and again and again and again. Wari re wari, mere pyare, wari re wari, wari re wari, wari re wari, mere pyare, wari re wari, wari re wari. Tuk tuk kar daru yatana, tuk tuk kar daru yatana, upar kunj bihari, wari re wari. Mahamati Prananaji expressed her feelings in these words. While everyone felt initially that they were lucky to get married and find someone to have a family with, to start a family with, she extends her gratitude because it was Prananaji who purified her soul and took her to the eternal abode. Kahari kumata kuba kuchala eshi kathora kachina hunari. Atma meri nirmala karage seheje parega. She feels the bliss. And now there are her friends who initially felt that they were lucky to get married and have a family. Now they look at me, says Lalita. Mujhe dekhata sahi Allah meri. I see in them the sense of defeat because while they had a family, they had the recognition in the world, but they lost Param Dham. They lost the eternal glory. Mahamati Prananaji awakens Lalita, seeing the spirit of Lalita Bai in her. And she extends her gratitude for that matter that despite her physical condition, despite her looks, despite the fact that she had nothing to offer to Prananaji, she was awakened and she was connected to Sri Raji Maharaj with the grace of Prananaji. She is singing the glory of Prananaji for that matter. As we already talked about, the Mahamati Prananaji's vision, the glory of equality. He does not care about how one looks. He does not care about the socio-economic status of an individual. He only cares if that soul has the spirit of Param Dham, whether that soul is inquisitive to know the Lord Supreme. Mahamati Prananaji cares less about everything else. All he cares about is spreading, propagating the transcendent understanding that he has, the awakened consciousness that's given to him, that he's been entitled to. Mahamati Prananaji is trying to awaken the kings, the emperors, because Satguru Sri Devchandraji Maharaj had ordered him to awaken two leading souls of Paramdham, namely Sakundal and Sakumar. There was a king named Jaswanta Singh, the king of Jodhpur. He was fighting with the Mughals. He was fighting with the armies of Aurangzeb, the Muslim emperor. Mahamati Prananaji sends Govardhan Bhatta to see if Jaswanta Singh is one of the spirits of Paramdham, one of the souls of Paramdham. Govardhan Bhatta went to him with a letter and he gave him the message of Prananath. While he was fighting the Mughals and protecting his land, he was not the soul of Paramdham. And it is said that those who want to be awakened, one alarm is enough. You do not need someone to constantly remind you that you should be awakened if you really want to awake. One alarm is enough. Mahamati Prananath's letter and Govardhan Bhatta's attempt to awaken Jaswanta Singh could not be happening, could not happen, could not be realized, could not be accomplished. So Mahamati Prananath keeps pursuing the leading soul of Paramdham, Sakundala and Sakumar. One day, he was just walking around in the city of Mirta and he heard the call for prayers coming out of a mosque. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So Mahamati Prananath heard the call for prayers or azan. Ek dina bahar chalate marga mein chale tita banga munari par chade dai mulla ne japa. The mullah called for prayers. Kano suna awaaz ko dil vichara kiya thapa. As soon as Mahamati Prananath heard those words, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, as Mahamati Prananath heard those words coming out of the mouth of the mullah who was calling for prayers, Mahamati Prananath thought for a moment and started analyzing it. Mahamati Prananath felt that what these people are talking about, La ilaha illallah, and the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are essentially the same. He says, La to nahi ko kaya. La means nothing. La means of no value. La means null. Illa to he hakka. Illa meaning Akshara Brahma. And Illallah means Aksharatita. And he began looking at the verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, in the Purushottam Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 16 and 17, Sri Krishna says to Arjuna that there are three divine beings, one perishable one infallible one, and the third one, Uttamha Purusha, or the Lord Supreme Aksharatita. Dvabhimo Purusho Loke Cherash Akshara Evachaha Cheras Sarvani Bhutani Kutastu Akshara Uchyate Uttamaha Purushastu Anya Paramatmiti Udarita. So Mahamati Prananath realized at that moment, although he had heard these calls for prayers in the past, this time only he realized that what Bhagavad Gita had said all along, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita of 5,000 years ago and Quran had the identical message to the world. Just like Sri Krishna says, Uttamaha Purushastu Anya Paramatmiti Udarita, the Lord Supreme is only one considered to be the Lord. He is only considered to be the Lord Supreme, Uttamaha Purusha. Aksharatit Sri Krishna is only stated to be the Lord Supreme. Quran says there is no God but Allah. and Muhammad is his prophet. So when it comes to the Lord Supreme, God Supreme, Godhead of all gods, Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, and Quran were saying the same thing. Mahamati Prananath realized that they were spreading the common message. They were relaying the identical messages. Mahamati Prananath thought for a while and decided that he needed to study the book of Quran, because he felt that Prophet Muhammad had the revelations and he came up with the book of Quran. So he felt that there must be something of value in that book. Where Gita had Char, Akshar and Aksharati, in Quran had La, Illa, Illallah. Mahamati Prananath thought that there might be the distinction, these might be the distinction in language only, but the deep reflection of the scriptures probably give us the identical messages. And Mahamati Prananath starts reflecting on the teachings of Quran. As we talked about earlier, Satguru had asked Prananath to look into the book of Quran when he was awakening one of the Muslim widow named Khuzibai, knowing that she had the soul of Rahibai in her from Paramdham. He asked Prananath to look at the book of Quran because he could not do so. Tava Zahiri Lokane. There were people who would not want him to read the Quran, spread the teachings of the Quran, compare the Vedic scriptures in the Quran. Satguru could not do it, so he had asked Prananath. So Mahamati realized that it was a moment for him to look into the book of Quran, find the similarities, find the identical teachings, and reach out to Muslims as well, because he knew that Satguru told him that there are some souls of Paramdham among the adherents of Islam. Nazane isha jhunda mein kaun shuhagino hue is Mahamati. In this world of awakening, in this world of Jagani, the souls of Paramdham have descended in amongst different cultures, different traditions, different religious beliefs, with different customs and cultural values, with different language proficiencies. So obviously, it is to be realized that some of the consorts of Paramdham have come into the Christian family. Some of them have come into the Muslim family, some into the Jain, some into the Sikh, some into the Buddhist, and some into the families where they do not believe God altogether. So Mahamati Prananath realized that it was the right time. It was an opportune time for him to look into the teachings of Quran, the last Abrahamic religious text. Sri Mahamati kahe Shataji yahan lo isha ka lama aba Muhammad ko mila chale kahu ek din aatan. So until now, Mahamati Prananath only had the understanding of Sri Satguru. He only had the Vedic understanding, but now he took up the responsibility, took upon himself the role of understanding Quran and revealing the secrets of this holy book to the adherents of Islam and promote interfaith harmony. He told Lal Dasi, one of the closest disciples, one of the closest associates, we can say that. He told him, I found one thing today. Naldasi said, Gurudev, please tell me, what did you find? Mahamati Prananaji said, there are identical teachings in Bhagavad Gita, in Quran. Prophet Muhammad came to this world with the words that are for the all of humanity. Actually, all the scriptures, be it Vedas, Quran, Bible, or any other scripture, they've come for humanity. And we should, for that matter, look into them in their teachings. Mahamati Prananaji in the book of Singar says, Kalama Allaya Hadith Sastra Puran Ya Ved Esava Sukha Leve Momen Hakka Rashana Ve. All the scriptures, be it Quran or Hadiths, the experiences of Prophet Muhammad, the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. Sastra Puran Ya Ved, the Vedas, the Quran are different scriptures of Vedic traditions. These are all for humanity given by the Lord Supreme Himself. And these distinctions are due to the desire of Akshirati Sri Krishna. As Mahamati Prananaji started looking into Quran and found those similarities, as we all know that Laldasi was a wealthy businessman in the city of Tatanagar, and he would go to Arab all the time. And he had some understanding of Quran. He could read Arabic. And Mahamati Prananaji realized that with the understanding of Quran, he could reach out to the Muslim Emperor Aurangzeb, and he could be given the message of this religious text. Mahamati Prananaji thought, for that, he would have to understand the language Arabic. He would have to understand the teachings of the Quran, because he would not even listen at all if Prananaji was to reveal the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. That is probably the reason why we find the reference of Paramdham. We find some indication of the arrival of the consorts of the Lord Supreme. We find some deeper underlying message for awakening in all different types of scriptures. There are some references in Bible about the arrival of the people of spirit, as they call it Holy Spirit. They do not know what truly Holy Spirits are, but there is a concept of Holy Spirit in Bible. There is a concept of Mu'min, the pure souls in Quran. 3 different types of souls, 14 planes, and many other similarities are found in between the Vedic scriptures and the last among the Abrahamic scriptures, Quran. So Mahamati Prananaji realized that if I want to convince the Muslim, then I would have to take references from the Quran, because they would not understand, they would not listen otherwise. मुस्लिम को मुस्लिम की और हिंदुओं को हिंदुओं की तरह ये सब समझे अपने मिले जब आए इमाम आखिर, says Mahamati Prananaji in the book of Sananda, chapter 32, verse number 20. I would have to remind Muslims from the book of Quran and the Hindus from the Vedic scriptures, because they would understand from their own scriptures. And it will happen when the Imam, the Akhiri Imam, the last Imam will come to this world. It says Mahamati Prananaji asked the moments, the awakened souls, to embrace all different scriptures, because they were the gift to humanity by the Lord Supreme. We should not see the distinction in language. We should not see the distinction in what people are doing in the name of religion, but we should look into those scriptures and take what gives meaning to us. What is meaningful to us in those books for us? Mahamati Prananath starts looking into the book of Quran. And as he sees around the Muslims and their religious practices, just like the Hindus who are engaged in rituals, the Muslims are engaged in Sariyat. They are all about 5 prayers a day. They are all about fasting in the month of Ramadan. They are all about pilgrimage to Makkah. But they care less about understanding Khuda, the Brahma, the equivalence of which is Brahma in Vedic scriptures. They are not looking at the teachings of Quran. They are just listening to what they are told. Oh, you gotta do this every day. This is what you should eat. This is who you should get married to. You should not treat people of others' faith right. They are the ones kafir. They are the ones who would go to hell and burn in eternal hellfire and things of that nature that they are told by the imams. But they do not look into the divine teachings of Quran, because many of them cannot read the book of Quran. God is called by different names and in different languages and in different contexts may be called out differently. But Mahamati Prananath realizes that although the sun that we see that gives us light is called as Suraj in Hindi, in the sun in English, in the Western world, but it refers to the same thing. Mahamati Prananath realized that God similarly is called by different attributes, different titles, and different names, but He is the same. Mahamati Prananath is trying to unify the world, trying to unify humanity behind that theme that God is one. Gavam Maneka Varnanam, Shirasya Asti Eka Varnatha. The Upanishads say that the cows may have different physical attributes. They may look different. Some of them can be black, some of them can be brownish, some of them can have twisted horns, some of them may have no horn. Yet the milk that we get from the cow has essentially same value. The milk is always white. Similarly, God that we call by different names is one and same. He says, Soi Khuda, Soi Brahma. Call Him Khuda or call Him Brahma. It is the same universal divine reality. Yet from that moment on, Mahamati Prananath realizes that the God that Muslims are calling upon and the God that Hindus offer their prayers to is the same. And it is one God that is overseeing everything. It is one God that is ruling the world, the universe. So Mahamati Prananath, with a sense of relief, sense of pride, that all these scriptures are basically guiding humanity towards that ultimate reality that Muslims call Khuda, Hindus call Brahma, the Christians call the Holy Father. Mahamati Prananath realizes that it's about time that we bring these faiths together. We spread the message of harmony. We spread the message of peace and unity, while the Muslim Emperor Aurangzeb was destroying Hindu temples, was doing everything in his power to convert Hindus into Islam, either by force or by dividing Hindus. He was giving tax relief to those countries, to those kings who were conducive to his expansionist policies, who would agree to him, and levy a large amount of tax to those states who were against his policy of conversion. Mahamati Prananath is going towards him, going towards Delhi, trying to remind him the deeper teachings of Quran. As Quran says, if Allah wanted, in the book Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 of Quran, the Quran says, if God willed, if Allah wanted, He could have made all of humanity into one single community with one identical belief. He gave all these distinctions, all these diversions, all different types of teachings in those scriptures, because He wanted to test humanity by means of what was given to them. And it was the same God who was sending different messengers to different communities. So Quran says, you have no right to forcefully convert anyone. You can persuade people about God, and anybody has right to do that, but not forcefully. If you can convince someone the glory of Islam, that's perfectly fine, says Mahamati. If you want to convince someone the divine teachings of Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Mahapurana, that is perfectly fine. And if you can convince someone, be it Muslim or Christian, and convince them to be converted into Hinduism, that's perfectly okay, says Mahamati, but not the forceful conversion. And Mahamati Prananath is trying to do the same. With the transcendent understanding that he has, he is trying to awaken, he's trying to spread the message of harmony. And he's asking people to look into those scriptures. He's doing the comparative study of all these scriptures and reminding them the similarities between these faiths. He's not necessarily trying to convert people into a particular faith, but what he is trying to do is trying to help Muslims understand the teachings of Quran. He's trying to help Hindus try to understand the deepest meanings of the Vedas, the Vedanta, the Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavatam, among other scriptures. He's trying to help Hindus to be true Hindus, and he is trying to help Muslims to be true Muslims who would believe in the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad and teachings of Prophet Muhammad, and the Vedic people of Vedic origin understand the true values of the teachings of Vedas, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, among other scriptures. He did not come into this world to establish a new religion, a new faith. Actually, he came into this world to unify the Vedas and the Quran. He came into this world to establish harmony between the Eastern religious traditions and those of the West, because they're Sandarsadsi. The understanding, the transcendent understanding of Dharma, the revelations of Mahamati Prananath is not for a particular community. It is just not for the followers of Hinduism. It is for the world. The glory of Dharma is to be realized by everyone, because the eventual goal of the arrival of this transcendent understanding is to awaken everyone. Piche sukha hoshi shavanna pasa rasi chaudhe bhavanna. The eventual goal is to awaken everyone and grant them the eternal abode. Allow them to have an opportunity to be awakened, to gain salvation, to receive moksha. That is the eventual goal of Dharma. And for that, Mahamati Prananath just cannot reach out only to the Hindus. He is here in this world to awaken Muslims, Christians, Jains, Sikhs, agnostic, narcissists, everyone alike. That is why he is reaching out to everyone. And he dares to do the same with the Muslim Emperor Aurangzeb, who is the matter, who is the king, who is the emperor that everyone fears. Mahamati Prananath, a saint with no powers, no military behind him to back him up, is trying to convince Aurangzeb to stop his tyranny against Hindus, the mistreatment of Hindus. Dear Devchandraji, we are the disciple of such a divine personality. We are the adherents of Mahamati Prananath. So what we need to do is broaden our understanding and broaden our acceptance of people of different faiths. We should not be critical of anyone or any scripture for that matter, because they are all the gifts of Shree Raji. Mahamati Prananath now from city of Merta goes towards Delhi, the place ruled by Emperor Aurangzeb. He wants to awaken Aurangzeb. He wants to teach Aurangzeb the true messages of Prophet Muhammad. Mahamati Prananath goes to Gokul, Mathura, the place of Lord Sri Krishna of Brazil, and will also in tomorrow's discourse talk about Mahamati Prananath's arrival to the Kumbh Mela, one of the biggest religious congregations amongst the Hindus, actually in the world. That millions of people congregate in the banks of Ganga, the river Ganga. We'll talk about the Kumbh Mela and Mahamati Prananath's declaration as the Buddha Niskalanka avatar. We'll talk about all those concepts tomorrow. So I hope you'd reflect on Mahamati Prananath's message of religious harmony and universal acceptance of different scriptures. Because when the sun shines, it does not discriminate who is poor, who is rich, who is meek, who is humble. It spreads the light to every corner of the world. Similarly, the transcendent illuminating light, brightness of Dharma is to be received by all of humanity, not just Hindus or Muslims or Christians. It is to be received by all. Whether one accepts the value of it, that is another question. But it is to be understood by everyone. So with that, I conclude my remarks for today.